One of the other tasks you might wish to do as part of a routine pitch correction process is to look for segments where there's a lot of variation in pitch within a segment. And then we've got this particular note here. This looks like there's vibrato all the way through the segment. If you find that or you decide that there's perhaps too much vibrato, you can damp it down with the pitch straightening tool. You can also, if you want to, preserve the pitch changes at the start of the note where it transitions from one note to another, or at the end of the note where it might transition out into a different note, by setting these range controls. So pitch straightening will now only occur between those two set range smart controls. So if we now adjust the pitch straightening control, it's only operating on the segment area in the segment that sits within that range. In fact, these range controls can be used for a number of different things. So for example, if I actually want to emphasize just the pitch variation at the transition, I can take the range controls and make them act only on the portion of the segment that defines the transition, and flatten the transition out to get that sort of very sharp defined pitch inflection between those two different phrases. Equally, I can perhaps take the first part of this note, flatten out its pitch, while leaving the pitch variation in the second half of the note. And what we get here is a more consistent pitch, and then the onset of a stronger vibrato towards the end of a sustained note. And that can be very useful because it allows you to define, after the recording's taken place, to define the way the vibrato is used in the vocal performance. So if we want to hear those sorts of changes in context, here's the vocal with this segment unprocessed. So you can hear quite a strong vibrato in the sustained note. We can damp that down. So it's slightly more subtle. Or we can control the vibrato on just the first half of the note. So as you can see, really quite detailed control is possible over the vibrato performance within your vocal.